welcome back to another episode of the Good Business podcast, and today we are at the Oxygen Therapy Works, and I'm here with Jenni Donnelly, who is the general manager for the practice as well. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming along today and speaking to us. We're really excited to hear all about the charity and the work that it's doing. So we believe people are at the heart of good business, and that's why we wanted to speak to yourself today, because we know that you are obviously the manager here, and I suppose charities are also at the kind of heart of that as well. And we really wanted to hear a little bit more about you. So do you want to tell us a bit about yourself and how you got involved with Oxygen Works as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Jenni Donnelly. I'm the general manager here at the Oxygen Works. So before I came to work here, I've been here for 18 months. Before I came here, I was working in a sort of high-profile commercial business, which I've been doing for 14 years. I was involved with sales originally and then procurement. And then obviously lockdown, and as a lot of people, just had to look at really what I wanted to do and if I still wanted to be in that sort of environment. Mm-hmm. The hours weren't really suiting me as much anymore, so I wanted to sort of have a better work-life balance. Yeah. And it just so happened, I knew about the Oxygen Works through a friend of mine that actually attends the centre. So it just so happened I followed them on Facebook and it came up that they were looking for somebody for an operations manager. So I applied for the job and lo and behold, I got it. Yay! Best move I ever made.
Uh-huh. And do you enjoy working here? Do you want to tell us a little bit about what your role is and what you kind of do in the day to day?
Absolutely. This is, I think everybody says when they walk into the building, it really, a lot of our clients have said it just feels like walking into a giant hug. We're a very small but mighty team of 5. There's only 5 of us here, 2 of which are full-time, 3 part-time. So we run our services, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, we have massage therapy, we have acupuncture, we have a private physio team that we work with as well. So there's lots and lots goes on a daily basis within the Oxygen Works.
A lot to keep account of, isn't it? You must be a busy lady.
Of course, we are very busy.
So you've said there's five of you that work here. Mm-hmm. So what are the other kind of roles within the team? What do they do? Are they doing these treatments or do they do other things? What kind of...
Yeah, so the core team that work within, just for the charity itself are, we have our CEO, we have myself as a general manager, and we have 3 members of staff who generally work the chamber. Mm-hmm. They're chamber operators, but they also deal with things like we run wellbeing groups, so they help support the wellbeing groups. And we also have Kasha, who also works with private physio team Move Forward. Mm-hmm. She's training to be a physio assistant. Oh wow! She's doing her training with them, so we allow her a day a week to go and work with Move Forward. So she's been finding that incredible and learning loads as well. Yeah.
It sounds like there's lots going on, definitely. What would you say, I know you'd said you'd seen the advertisement on Facebook, but what made you move, maybe even particularly from, were you in private sector before to going into charity? Yeah, absolutely. What kind of influenced you?
I'm involved with another couple of charities, Step Up for Sam and Dream Believe Achieve Highland. And it was actually, the true story of it is, I contacted a friend of mine and said to her, she does coaching, and I said to her, I'm randomly applying for loads of different jobs, and I know that I'm not really centred enough in what I'm looking at and what I want to be doing. And she gave me a very simple task, and she said, well, here's something you can try. She said, just write down your skill set and write down what brings you joy. And the thing that has brought me the most joy in recent years is doing the charity work and raising money. Mm-hmm. So that prompted me, to start sort of narrowing down my search and looking at charity work. And
what specifically in charity work was it that you were really enticed by, especially here at the Oxygen Works? What kind of brought you to them?
Oh, people, helping people. And making their lives better. Mm-hmm. as much as just doing your own little bit sort of thing to improve people's quality of life.
Yeah. So do you want to tell, because I'm sure I didn't know before I came here, but I'm sure a lot of our listeners maybe might not know as well, but do you want to tell us a little bit about Oxygen Works and how they came about, and for somebody at home who is maybe thinking about, well, what kind of services do you offer? Could you explain a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, the Oxygen Works has been here for 31 years.
Oh, wow.
I know everybody says that. We didn't know you were here. So the Oxygen Works has been here for 31 years. We just had our 30th anniversary last year. And we provide hyperbaric oxygen therapy for anybody that wants it, really. So predominantly we see a lot of people with MS. We used to be known as the MS Therapy Centre. Mm-hmm. Originally we were set up by 4 people who all had MS. So we're supporting people with MS. Now we're supporting people with fibromyalgia, people that are recovering from operations, any sort of, post-stroke, people that, have various different neurological conditions. And we have people travelling from across the whole of Scotland to come in and use our services.
Oh, wow.
There are different, there's other centres like ours across Scotland, but some of them are MS specific and will only see people with MS. Okay. Whereas 7 years ago we rebranded as the Oxygen Works, so that we could, embrace other people and just make it an all-inclusive, rather than just MS specific.
Yeah, and you'll have to excuse my ignorance, but what does hyperbaric oxygen mean? What does that mean specifically? I'm sure there's probably a few people listening who might not know what that means specifically as well.
So when you go into the chamber, which is an old diving bell, you're in with 5 other people. So basically you're putting on an oxygen mask and breathing pure medical grade oxygen in a pressurised area. So the chamber gets pressurised with air, and you're basically, when you're breathing in the pure medical grade oxygen, the air that when you're under pressure is pushing that oxygen into your...
Yeah, and there's so much, I've seen so many kind of scientific kind of things coming out recently about just how important it is, breathing and just oxygen in general, and how much it really, really benefits your health. And just breathing properly, they say, is actually, and it was actually in a podcast I seen this morning, it was talking all about oxygen, how breathing properly helps with that. And actually a lot of us don't breathe properly. And I was like, wow, there you go.
Who knew?
So it's quite interesting to come here today and hear that as well. Yeah. Have you been into the chamber yourself? What does it kind of look like inside?
Yes, I have. So it comfortably sits 5. Really comfy seats. You can take in your iPad, your phone, you can listen to music, you can do puzzles, you can do whatever you like when you're sitting in there. Anything that's going to keep you occupied for the sort of hour and a quarter that you're in there. Okay. You do have to wear a mask. At first I thought it might feel a bit cumbersome, but actually once it's on and you're used to it. And I went in with a friend of mine, like I say, who attends the centre, and he had suggested that I listen to music because it can be quite noisy. So I had music on and was really nervous going in, but apparently when I came out I'd been singing and I hadn't even realised.
Oh wow.
I was so relaxed when I was in there, I was giving it big looks to the proclaimers.
So is there a singing career in the future for you? We've heard it here first, folks.
So it is very relaxing.
I think I'd quite enjoy that actually. I could go in there with my Lady Gaga and just have a wee jam, I think. So, I mean, we've talked a little bit about the kind of mission statement, I suppose, of the Oxygen Works, but what kind of drives the company? I know you talked about some of the services that some of them specifically for MS and wanting to widen that, but what do you think drives the company at the heart of it?
That's a difficult one. I would say essentially the people. Really what we want to do is be a leading centre of excellence for hyperbaric oxygen therapy in the Highlands. As I say, there's people that travel regularly from the Western Isles, Orkney, East Coast. We've had people travelling up from the Central Belt. Wow. So we really want to just basically be there for all these people that need us.
Is this the only hyperbaric one in Highland? Is this the only centre for it?
No, there's one in Wick.
Is there?
And there was one in Portree that shut down through COVID. There was one in Orkney that closed down through COVID. A lot of the centres are volunteer run. Because they're charities. So whereas we're more of a sort of an organisation with the sort of business side as well. So, but a lot of them are volunteer run. So over COVID.
What comes across really clearly with you, and I suppose probably with the rest of your team, is that you really want to connect with your service users. I wonder if you've got any, and I'm sure you've got loads, but I wonder if you could tell us maybe even a few stories of success that you've had with clients, or any kind of good soul food stories to share with us.
Yes. It's amazing because they happen all the time. I mean, there's various different ones. There was one that was in the press recently regarding a couple that of volunteers here, and Barry was in as a service user. And he was seeing the physio team. Now, he has MS and he's been in a wheelchair for a long time, but he managed to get up at his wedding to Emma and do his first dance, just through hard work and exercise with the physio team. In terms of the chamber, we see people all the time who are recovering much quicker from breaks, hip replacements, wound healing. So we have a lot of feel good stories really that happen all the time. The wellbeing groups that we've set up over the past just over a year, we started a men's wellbeing group that was set up based on a meeting that we'd had with the MS nurses for the Highlands. There's only 2 full-time and 1 part-time MS nurse for the whole of the Highlands.
Wow.
So they've been really, really stretched. And after COVID and lockdown, they were finding that they were speaking to a lot of people who were maybe struggling to leave the house, still felt a bit fearful, and especially men that didn't really want to chat about how they were feeling. So we set up our first wellbeing group. That now then led on to our women's wellbeing group. We've now set up a young person's wellbeing group.
Wow.
We have a monthly craft group. And really, you know, when you're talking about feel-good stories, they might not be the biggest, you know, events as such, but to see the friendships that are formed and to see the support, the peer support, and people that have come in and said, oh, you know, I found out so much about, you know, the medication that I could be taking differently, or even just someone to chat to when they're feeling lonely, to know that they can come out every month and, you know, be part of that group and have a bacon roll, a cup of tea and a chat, you know. That has really been incredibly heartwarming to watch.
Yeah, and I'm like, you can never underestimate like how much of an impact that has, you know, on people, especially being able to connect with other people who are going through something similar. I think
Absolutely.
It's just, or sharing information, like you say. What do you kind of do in your wellbeing groups? What kind of activities do you do, or do you just meet and chat, or how regular do you meet?
It's very much peer-led, so they're all monthly. The men's group meets the first Tuesday of every month. The women's group's the first Wednesday of every month. The young person's group is the third Wednesday in every month. And our craft group at the moment is monthly. That stopped for a little while, but no, generally the wellbeing groups are just peer-led, and it is really just a chance to get people together in a warm, safe environment where there's no judgment. You know, they feel free to chat. I was chatting to 2 ladies at the women's group this week, and they were saying how much just having that group to come down and chat freely in a non-judgmental way has really been life-changing for them.
Yeah.
You know, so that's really what we want to create and keep building on, is giving people that you know, that safe, warm space to come and share.
And it's as much as like being able to share, it's actually having somebody to listen as well. And I think a lot of people, especially if you're struggling, you know, with health issues or whatever's going on in your life, actually having somebody who actively listens is really important. So it's amazing to hear that you're kind of facilitating. It sounds kind of like a community hub almost, more than anything.
Yes, and I mean, we always say that's what the Oxygen Works is like. It is just like a community, you know, the team, the board, you know, the clients that come in, you know, we're all just one big community. And, you know, recently we lost one of our members very suddenly, and never has it been noticed more, the feeling of togetherness and the support that, you know, obviously we had to support the team as management, but the clients that came in, the support that they gave to us, whether it was a hug or a little, you know, a packet of tablet, or, you know, a cake, or, you know, just people coming in saying, you know, we understand and we know what you're going through, was really quite amazing.
Yeah, I especially, it's when you're in the throes of grief, you want to like just be with other people who kind of understand, and that sounds like kind of how that went. That's beautiful, really. You know, you talked a little bit about the kind of local community aspect that you've had here, and I know you said about like reaching out for MS services, being there's only 2 nurses in Highland, but I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about how you collaborate with local communities and health providers, and like how you provide or fulfill needs that they have.
So we are very much we really enjoy the sort of collaborative working, and I think in the Highlands especially it's really essential that, you know, we all sort of come together and work together, because we're all so spread out, and, you know, we've got such a large area to cover. You know, there's, you know, Chamber in the Central Belt will, you know, have Edinburgh just to look after, or Glasgow just to look after. You know, we've got such a huge expanse, and it covers such a massive area, you know. So we're very much into the collaborative working. So yeah, we've got our centre here, so we rent out all the different rooms that we can at very affordable rates, all just goes into the charity. So we've been working with Move Forward from Elgin, who are now here 2 days a week. We have Sam that comes in and does auricular acupuncture 2 days a week. We've got Kasha who comes in and does bone therapy and cupping 1 day a week. We have Jen who comes in and does Theraplate 1 day a week. So in terms of bringing in other people, you know, that's what we're trying to do, is create this one space, almost like a one-stop shop, that people can come in, you know, they can, you know, maybe have their session in the chamber, have a bit of lunch, you know, get their acupuncture, you know, have a cup of tea, you know, and just so that we can offer a range of services all in one place. Because, you know, if you've got, you know, additional needs, or if you've got mobility issues to get around, and you've always got so many appointments, so to have everything in one place.
Yeah, that actually will be so much easier for people to like manage that, I suppose. Yeah. Absolutely. And especially if you've got somebody who's got quite complex health needs, like you say, having to kind of jot about from one thing to the next. And, you know, I know lots of like my older family are constantly complaining, oh, I've got this, you know, doctor's appointment, then I've got to go and do this. And it's like,
even just the practicality if you're in a wheelchair, having to get in, strapped into the van all the time, you know, all these different things, and it's very exhausting for carers and things as well. So
I suppose these are things we just take for granted, being well able-bodied people, you know. So I wonder if you could tell us a wee bit more about what we could expect to see from the Oxygen Works maybe in the next couple of years, if there are any sneak previews you can give us. Getting all the insider info.
We would love to just take over the world, but actually we can't do that. So no, we obviously have plans for expansion, hopefully in the near future. At the moment, it's just not the right market for sort of capital funding. You know, everything we do is self-funded. So yes, we would love to move to bigger premises, and we are looking into that, because we just like to be able to help, you know, as many people as we can.
And how many service users do you have, say roughly, like, is it weekly or monthly? I don't know what would be easiest for you to answer that, but how many people do you usually see?
So roughly, I would say on a weekly basis, just in the oxygen chamber alone, we're looking at about 125 per week. And then, you know, with, you know, if you take into account all the other services, probably about another 40, 50 maybe.
Wow.
So we are kept busy, and then our wellbeing groups they can go, sometimes there's 2 people, sometimes there's 10 people.
Yeah, it just kind of depends. That's quite a big like base for you to start with. So there's definitely room for expansion there. I'm there for the world domination.
Me too.
You heard it here first, folks. So I wonder if we could maybe move on to managing the Oxygen Works, and you know, could you tell us a bit something interesting that people might not necessarily know about the Oxygen Works?
Like I say, I think the most surprising thing is that we've been here for so long, and you know, just people don't really know that we're here. There's not a day goes by. I mean, we are sort of, you know, fighting that barrier, you know, breaking it down now. Especially after being the nominated charity at the Highland Business Dinner, that really brought the Oxygen Works into the focus for a lot of people. But I think just to know that it's actually here, I think is the most surprising thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I didn't know you guys were here until recently. So yeah, and I got lost on the way up here today as well. Somebody had told me, I think you had previous premises somewhere else. So have you moved?
No, we've always been here, and you know, I think it's one of these places that everyone just drives past and sees the little bungalow, you know, on the flyover, and doesn't really realise. And you know, but yeah, like I say, we're very small but very mighty, and you know, we're very proud of everything that we've achieved over that 31 years.
Yeah. So, you know, you're talking about like wanting to kind of get more people to know about the charity. You know, if it's been based here for 31 years and things just starting to build its way up, what are the kind of things you can do or what you're looking into to kind of build that profile for the charity?
We've certainly started using our social media a lot more. I do a little thing on a Friday called the Friday Roundup, which just gives a little bit of news and photos about what's been happening throughout the week within the centre. We've just recently had our website redone, completely jazzed up, so that's been working really, really well. So I think it's just moving with the times and keeping up with what's happening.
Going into the digital age.
Absolutely, and making sure that, you know, if these opportunities do come up with things like being the nominated charity events, you know, that's huge for us. You know, because a lot of the time it's getting the name out, and then that's when the sort of fundraising and, you know, input can begin. We do have our very first black tie event coming up next year on the 7th of June, which is called the Spring Swing. So we're on the lookout for sponsorship for that, but this is the first time we've really put on a massive big event in the Kings Mills Hotel.
Oh, perfect.
So we're very much looking forward to that and really hope it'll be well attended.
And get your dancing shoes on.
Oh, absolutely. Live music, lots of fun. So yeah, well, you know, we're going to be looking at sponsorship for that as well. But we're very excited about that, because that'll be a really big night for us.
Yeah, and I suppose that'll help towards like raising funds and things for the charity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I suppose that kind of moves nicely into my next question, because I was going to ask, what are the challenges that faces the charity right now? And I know probably across the board, what I hear from charities is money. And it's the same with businesses that we've spoken to as well. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about that, the challenges that you've faced over the last few years.
Sure, well, absolutely. I mean, if we all are facing the same difficulty. We're all, trying to pull from the same pot, basically, all the different charities. And, at a time when there's, financial crisis going on, we've had lockdown and we've had, all the rise in the fuel costs and things, people have less to give as well. Although you tend to find that people that have the least give the most a lot of the time. Has been my experience working with the different charities, but just funding really, and like I say, we'd love to move to a different, to new premises, but capital funding, build money is just not there just now. So it's all a question of timing and everything, but certainly that's why we're doing the best that we can at the moment to raise awareness. And then obviously with that awareness and collaborative working within the Highlands and things, then hopefully.
And does like a lot of your funding come from, is it like fundraisers and things that you do, or do you like try and get like grants and things from government, or?
We do apply for various different grants. We don't receive any funding from the NHS. So generally, when people come in to use the services here, because we're a charity, they are heavily subsidised, and we make everything as affordable as possible for people. If they have any concerns about money, then we obviously try and help them out with that. But generally, the main income that we have is from people coming in to use the services.
And can anybody come in to use the service? If there's people like home listening, and so they're like, oh, that sounds pretty good. Do they just pop in and can they get, or is it specifically more towards people with specific kind of health needs or issues?
We do see, predominantly people with neurological conditions, but basically anyone can come in and have a chat with us. The kettle's always on, our door's always open. If anyone wants to come in and find out more about what we're doing, or is interested in the wellbeing groups or any of the other services that are on offer here, we're always more than happy to sit down with people and have a chat.
And you were talking a little bit about the pandemic, and that kind of leads into my next question, because it was about like, how did you, as the manager for Oxygen Works, overcome challenges in the past? And I think across the board, when I've been speaking to people, COVID has been one of the biggest ones, and I would imagine for something that is quite person-centred, that would have been quite difficult and challenging to work around. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously I wasn't here. Basically all the services here had to close down completely, and Leanne would tell you herself, she put a wee note on the door saying we're closing for, we'll let you know what's happening in a couple of weeks. Little did we know it was going to go on for as long as it did. And then obviously we started to reopen again, but a lot of people, especially due to the nature of what we're doing here, breathing, wearing a mask, all that kind of thing, people were very reluctant to come back. So it was a very slow sort of reintroduction of services. Everything was done in a very slow way, so that people felt as comfortable as possible. But then once we did reopen fully, Leanne, who lives in Aviemore, got a call on Valentine's Day to say that somebody had walked past and there was water pouring out the letterbox. So we had a massive flood. And the whole ceiling came in. The whole building basically has been rebuilt from the inside. So services were closed down again for another 9 months. Wow. So in terms of overcoming adversity, I think the Oxygen Works has had its fair share of drama, and but what we do now on the 14th of February is we have a little party to celebrate that we've been open for 2 years, not that we were closed for as long as we were, and we just make it, we use it as a real positive thing. We've got a lovely building. They obviously the ceilings were all caved in, everything had to get emptied and stripped out, all the floors, everything right up to the door here.
Oh God. Was it a burst pipe or what?
Burst pipe, just above the chamber, and we've actually got the bit of pipe through there that shows you, and it's got a tiniest little hole that there was just water spraying everywhere.
It's just a wee memorabilia.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in terms of challenging times, COVID followed by the flood was incredibly hard work for Leanne and for the rest of the team. Everything here is very much a team effort. But like I say, they overcame and rose above it, and here we are.
Yeah, and the building is beautiful. It really is. I didn't realise it was as big as it was as well. It's amazing coming in today. It's quite the building. So I wonder if you could tell us a wee bit more about your team and what you do to promote skills development within your team.
So our team have actually gone through quite a few changes. Again, changes that have come sort of off the back of COVID. We used to run a minibus service. So we would, we'd have 2 drivers that would go around, pick everybody up from Invergordon, Nairn, places all around. But post-COVID, it wasn't really financially viable for us to do that anymore. So our people that were employed as van drivers then came in as chamber operators. So to see the change in them has been incredible. They've really taken on their new roles amazingly well. And just recently this year, we changed the rules again, and we're also now registered as real living wage employers.
Oh, fantastic.
So that was a really big deal that we want, a really big sort of pinnacle point that we wanted to get to. So that's been really amazing this year. And in terms of training and everything, we do a lot of training, and Kasia again has started doing our physio assistant training. So anything that we need to do to look at, we're going through diversity training, all different things. But the guys have been great at, like I say, we all pull together, we all come on board, and whatever challenge is set, they tackle it, no problem.
So do you think like skills development is quite important, like managing your team? Like, do you try and help promote them as much as you can? You're talking about changes in job roles and things. How do you help like that environment as a manager?
Oh, absolutely. It's about with our guys, it's about confidence. It's about showing them that they are absolutely well equipped to do what is required. So a lot of the time it's it's about confidence building, and just letting them know that their people skills and that the way they are is so appreciated by everybody that comes in. One of the other parts of training that they've been through is mental health toolkit training with Mikey's Line. Obviously we have to have some very difficult conversations with people in here. People come to look to us for help, and so we've had people that have come in saying that they've made an attempt on their own lives, or so that was another bit of training that we undertook with Mikey's Line, was to get them to come in.
I would imagine that'd be quite staple to kind of, physical health has as much an impact on mental health as anything.
We've done some training with Mikey's Line as well.
That's great. I know they've done a few different bits with workplaces around Highland and things. So, and did all the team get that training? Oh, that's amazing. That really is, because it's like if people are coming in and then they've got like a safe space to kind of go to and speak to, and then you're well equipped as well.
Absolutely, because we can always signpost. That's no problem. It's no problem for us to signpost to other organisations, but if people feel safe, and also we're very accessible for wheelchairs and things, and if people come to us and want to speak to us about it, then we need to be well equipped to be able to deal with that.
I always think it's easy enough to say to signpost out somewhere else, and ultimately that's probably where people do need to go, is to get like the best professional help. But when you've got somebody in your doorway saying, I'm really struggling, you can't really just say, well, no, sorry, away you go. You've got to kind of deal with the person there and be a bit, have a bit of humanity about you, don't you? Absolutely. So it's important to have that kind of training behind you. So I wonder if you could tell us a wee bit about, because a lot of our listeners are maybe young people or business owners themselves, people looking at different career settings and sectors. I wonder if you would encourage young people to get involved in working with sector organisations or volunteering, kind of like Oxygen Works, and maybe you could talk a wee bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if anyone said to me, which was better, the charity worker, working in the commercial sort of area, hands down it would be the charity side, because it brings its own sort of unique set of challenges, certainly in terms of funding and, people you're dealing with, but also it is so massively rewarding, and I just think there's not a day, like I've not gone home and said, I've had a terrible day at work, It's a really rewarding job to be in, and so I would encourage anyone to, and even volunteering, you're helping others, which is, gives you the feel good factor as well. But volunteering is so essential to, small organisations like ours, when we only have 5 staff, so we need the volunteers to come in and help with various different things as well.
So if there is somebody sat at home who's thinking, because I would probably be in this kind of in this position. You know, when you're in school or, you know, leaving high school, you don't usually think about third sector as like the career opportunity to go into. It's usually the private sector, or, you know, those good old kind of sector roads that you go down. So if there is somebody at home listening, what would you recommend to them to do if they wanted to get involved with? Would it be going off and volunteering with a charity, or what's the kind of ways for them to get into that?
I think volunteering would be a really good opportunity, actually, because what you would then be able to do is, you know, what the time that you would be able to give, even if you were only able to give, say, one day a month or one day, you know, every couple of months or whatever, it's very, you know, it's not much time to you, but for that organisation it could be huge.
Yeah.
You know, and then if it's something that you feel that you're not quite slotting into right, then you could go and try somewhere else, you know. And so yeah, I think volunteering would be an excellent way to lead into that sort of
kind of tie it all in.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I did when I was in school, and it was probably one of the most beneficial things that I ever did, was actually going volunteering with a charity, because the skill set I learned was probably more than, you know, even the jobs, like kind of Saturday jobs I used to do, you know, because you really interact.
It's life skills, isn't
it? Absolutely. It's that interaction, I think, is so key. So a lot of the time when we are doing this podcast, we are kind of getting into the nitty gritty of how people market themselves. And I think what would be really interesting is to hear from you, like, how do you market a charity? Is it difficult? Like, what are the things that you do to kind of get your name out there as a charity?
So obviously, like I say, we have got a brand new website that we just launched this year. This year? And that's great. Like, we've been able to integrate a really good FAQ section into that. So that's really helpful for people that are just finding out about us for the first time. And we use social media a lot more, where our Instagram's much more active than it used to be. And on Facebook, like I say, we do our little Friday roundup, and we use that more as a sort of newsletter. So anything that's upcoming, any of our wellbeing groups, any of the extra events that we're doing, everything just goes through our Facebook page. We also, you know, obviously work together with our board, and recently, just at the beginning of the year, we recruited onto our board a chap who specialises in marketing, which has been excellent.
Yeah.
He's been super enthusiastic and really helpful at giving us ideas on what we need to be doing going forward, and just basically going out there a bit more, attending more of you know, the networking events that go on round about, and we're finding that really beneficial. So it's a case of doing more than that. But the word we always come up with is capacity. You know, we've got a very limited capacity with such a small team, and if one person's out of the building, you can really feel it, especially if it's for an extended time. So if two of us, you know, have to go to attend a meeting, it just leaves three here. So sometimes, you know, when we're so busy, it can be tricky.
Well, I know, like, I started my own business at the start of this year, so I know how hard it is grappling with all the things that you need to do, and then you've got the social media bit on the side, which just seems increasingly more and more important these days. But how do you know that you're doing it right, and you're connecting with your customer, and, you know, how are you getting on with, because I think I don't know how many different platforms there is now. There's this new Threads one that's come out, and I'm like, oh goodness me, it's just too much.
Instead of spreading out and just doing a little on each one, we're concentrating on, you know, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and that's where we do the majority of our stuff. And yeah, we can tell it's working because you know, we are getting, you know, when you look at the analytics, you know, certainly numbers are going the right way, and we're having a lot more people that come in saying, oh, I heard about you when I saw this on Facebook, or I heard about you when I saw, you know, a lot of it's word of mouth, obviously, because of where we are in the Highlands, everybody chats. You know, but no, I think it's working well. And like I say, when we're nominated for Charity of the Year, or when we're invited along to any of these bigger events, and we're put, you know, in front of all these local businesses, and that's really the ideal. That's an excellent situation.
And do you quite enjoy doing the social media stuff? Like, what kind of content are you putting out there? Is it like day in the life?
Yeah, we do lots of different things. And definitely the things that get the most likes are pictures of the team doing whatever they're doing when it's National Pizza Day, having a pizza, or, you know, all these different things. Anything that's got pictures of the team seem to go down well. So I think they're a popular bunch.
Yeah, I'm always looking for ideas to steal off people. That's why I asked. I'm like running out of ideas. I know. I think people must be getting sick of my face by now, but apparently not. So I just wanted to kind of move on into the future for the Oxygen Works, and wanted to ask how you are developing your services, you know, for the future. I know you talked a little bit about looking at new premises, but are you looking at maybe getting some other services in? Is there any kind of plans around that?
It's an ever-changing beast, really, and we're very lucky that we've, managed to pull in all the services that we do, with all the different smaller businesses that we have working out of the centre here. So yeah, very much more of that. As I mentioned before, we're really into the sort of collaborative working in the Highlands, with various different local businesses and organisations. So yeah, just carrying on with doing what we're doing. I think what we're doing, it's been such a big change in the past sort of couple of years to do it the way that we are. So really just building on that and, and creating the, the best services that we can for our clients that come in.
Yeah, I think that collaborative thing is the most important. It's what I hear from a lot of charities, but even businesses, I suppose. It's like, it's really looking at like, well, look, we're open to ideas, let's have a chat kind of thing. So that'll be, and at the end of the day, that benefits your service users going forward, doesn't it?
And that's the thing, we're all here for the same reason and we just want to help people. So if we can do it all together, then all the better.
Well, folks, you know where to come and call if you've got any ideas. And I wonder if you want to talk to us a bit about the ways that individuals and businesses in the local community can get involved or support the work that you do. Is there volunteering opportunities, or what can they do to kind of assist Oxygen Works if they're interested?
Absolutely, there's always something to be done. So even if people wanted to maybe sponsor a week at the Oxygen Works, or but if anyone wants to approach us and come down, we're always happy to listen to different ideas. There's always volunteering opportunities, sponsorship of events, all these different things, or even just chatting with people about the Oxygen Works and what we do, saying, oh, I listened to this excellent podcast about the Oxygen Works. Certainly within Inverness itself, word of mouth, as soon as one person hears about something, it gets spread around. So just keep our name in mind and just chat with people about it, because the more people that know we're here, the more people will benefit.
So you've successfully given our listeners homework. Everybody's listening to this. Go and speak about the Oxygen Works in your day-to-day lives. And I wonder if there is anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners about your business, if there's about your charity, if there's anything else you want to kind of put out there or speak about Oxygen Works that you think might be important.
Follow our Facebook page. get on the socials. Have a look at our website. No, if you're interested at all in coming down to see us, our door is always open. That's what I would say about here. Our door is always open. Come in, find out what we're all about, see what we do, and come and meet the team.
Yeah, and it's a very welcoming place, I can tell you that. Well, I actually am going to give you an opportunity to do a little self-plug. So if you want, how can our listeners connect with Oxygen Works online, or coming down here? Do you want to give your handles a wee plug so people can follow you?
So we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and we also have, our door is always open. Come down for tea, coffee, come down for one of our wellbeing groups. You don't have to have any, certain conditions or anything. Everyone's always welcome. We have lovely homemade soup. We have lovely bacon rolls, and there's always cakes, biscuits that were very kindly donated on the go, which doesn't help the waistline. But yeah, always just know that the door's always open and anyone's welcome to come in.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today. It really has been a pleasure. So I hope our listeners have got a lot of information about the work that your charity do. Hopefully they'll go and spread it by word of mouth and follow you on Instagram and all the other handles as well. Anything about sponsorships, please do come down. I know they're looking for them. But thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Good Business podcast. I've been your host. My name's Danni, and we will see you on to the next podcast. Take care.